Hello, everyone. My name is Annie, and the research article that I read is called The Intake of Okara Soup for 2 Weeks for Breakfast Improved Defecation Habits in Young Japanese Women with Self-Reported Constipation. The study was done from February to March of last year in Japan and was published back in September of this year. So you may be wondering, why did the researchers decide to do this interesting study? Well, there are many reasons, but some of the main reasons are that there has been an increasing amount of Japanese women that have dealt with little to severe constipation during their early 20s to their late 20s, and that for them, constipation disrupts their quality of life. And so because of this, Japanese doctors and medical professionals are trying to seek ways to treat this specific symptom. Now, from the nutrition aspect, it's widely known that fiber and probiotics are very well-known food supplements for improving constipation. So in Japan, there's this very interesting food called okara. And okara is basically known as soy pulp. It's a byproduct of soy milk that contains very rich sources of both protein and dietary fiber. It's often used as a livestock feed and in production of gluten-free flour. So in the past few years, beginning from around 2011 and up to now, there was very little research done on determining whether okara does improve constipation. So majority of the research that was done on this specific topic have supported the stance, but there were certain limitations of these studies that may have caused some interference in their experiments, leading to a false result and thus not being able to back up with this statement. So because of this, the researchers decided to conduct this study to see if the intake of okara can really increase the frequency of bowel movements and improve defecation habits in young Japanese women. So in order to carry out the study, the main materials that were needed for this experiment would be the okara soup and the soy milk soup. The okara soup would be the test soup, and the soy milk soup will be the placebo. So just to give you an overall summary of how the study was conducted, so this study basically had 52 participants, all of whom were female college students over the age of 20, and that half of the participants were either placed in the test or placebo groups. So depending on which group they were placed in, they would be either consuming only okara or soy milk soup every day for breakfast for 2 weeks. The participants would then record their ingested amounts of soup and frequency of defecation each day. And then after 2 weeks, all participants' height and body composition were measured, and that for each week, the participants would have to report their frequency of bowel movements using CAS, which is an 8-item system or scale that assess the presence and severity of their constipation. So after this 2-week intervention here, the researchers continued to follow up all the subjects for the next 2 weeks. And just like the first 2 weeks, the participants would repeat everything of what they have done. So they would be reporting their measurements and their assessments. But the only thing that they don't have to do would be to consume more okara and soy milk soup. So just to give you a quick visual of what CAS is, I have attached a picture here. So as you can see, it's pretty simple. There's 8 items, and on each item, the participants would rate their bowel movements from 0 to 2, with 0 being a no problem and 2 being a very severe problem. And that at the end of the assessment, the total score would be added up, ranging from 0 to 16, where a score of 0 is showing no problems with their defecation habits, and 16 exhibiting severe constipation. And so at the end of the study, results were gathered and analyzed. And so at the end of the first trial, which is where the participants would consume their soups for 2 weeks, it was found that the frequency of bowel movements increased significantly throughout the entire 2 weeks within the test group, while there is only a significant increase in the first to second week for the placebo group. Now, when analyzing the CAS scores, it turned out that there was a significantly lower CAS score in the test group than the placebo group after 2 weeks. So just from these results, it was determined that the intake of okara soup for 2 weeks does lead to a rapid increase in the frequency of bowel movements and that it improved defecation habits. And so at the end of the second trial, which is the 2-week follow up period, it was found that the total CAS score of the test group significantly increased, while the CAS score for the placebo group remained the same as before. Now, these results alone, again, further contributed to the fact that Okara is suggested to be effective in improving the participants' defecation habits, bowel movements, as well as abdominal bloating. So, in conclusion, this entire study basically proved the fact that ingestion of Okara soup for 2 weeks does help with improving their defecation habits in young Japanese women. And so, because of this, Okara is deemed to be an effective food product in treating constipation within young women. And that's it. Thank you for listening into my presentation. I hope you find it pretty interesting and resourceful, and I hope you enjoy it.